I got my life back. You know, a life that I've been waiting to live for almost 34 years.
I am Lashauna Cutts. I'm a therapist and I am Senior Clinical Director at Nema Health. I am sitting here with the amazing Gabrielle Union, and we are talking about post-traumatic stress disorder and what recovery looks like.
Absolutely. I'm really excited. Gabrielle Union here, and I completed Nema treatment and I got my life back. You know, a life that I've been waiting to live for almost 34 years.
Yeah, 34 years. Just sort of thinking about that, living with a trauma for 34 years. Goodness. You know, I want to ask you some questions about PTSD.
Yeah.
And I think PTSD is one of those diagnoses that just sort of gets sensationalized. I think a lot of times when people think about PTSD, they think about what they think of as like classic symptoms like flashbacks or nightmares. I tend to think about PTSD as a set of internal rules we live by and that we oftentimes think we need in order to stay safe. Tell me about what that experience was like for you.
I have to be the most efficient person. I have to know everyone's job, where everyone's supposed to be at all times. If I am not all-knowing and a psychic to be able to predict the future, I am unsafe. So I'm constantly clock watching. I would time myself unloading and loading the dishwasher because that makes me safer. I love a schedule, but to a point that it's not quite healthy. Any change of the schedule, it's like, oh, you're trying to kill me. Oh, you're 15 minutes late. Like, my brain couldn't compute, oh, you got stuck in traffic or whatever happened. It's, you're trying to harm me. And immediately I feel safe, I feel dysregulated. You know, we talked about, you know, in my line of work, people try to get your attention. They might lightly touch you on the shoulder or the elbow. They might as well have had a gun to my head. It's, and it triggers this terror, full body terror response that is supposed to keep me safe and vigilant. I must be vigilant at all times. I must manage time, because if I can manage time, I can eliminate the threat, which is obviously illogical. It absolutely did not really help me at all, but in my body and in my mind, that's the only way to be safe.
Yeah, wow. I mean, you said so much there when you talk about like this, like hypervigilance, always being on guard, always scanning everything for threat, and this feeling like if I could control it down to every single detail, then I can sort of prevent being in danger. You know, and people with PTSD will have this experience where they are just constantly feeling like they are being watched, right? They have to have this alarm system set all the time. There is gonna be a fire. It just is like around the corner. And that armor almost can start to feel like a friend. Like,
oh, it's my most trusted friend.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's my only friend.
Right, this person that you need. And when I think about recovery, one of the fears that you might have had is, how do I walk through life without this armor? How do I walk through life without this friend that I have felt like I absolutely need, this friend that is like absolutely essential to my life, and this friend that I've had for the last 34 years. So talk to me about that process. What was that like? Just the idea of sort of letting go of this hypervigilance, letting go of this sense of, this is my security blanket.
You know, throughout our sessions, breaking it down to what it actually is and what it actually isn't. And it was a hard fought. You know, it was not something I casually let go of. Each session revealed a little bit more truth of the reality of it. And so by the end, it was like, so this is like the worst friend ever. This is a terrible friend. This friend keeps my life small. This friend keeps out discovery and evolution and openness and the world, really. Because this friend is the worst gatekeeper ever. But that's what I know my whole adult life. I know this friend. And in the last, what's October? It's almost 5-6 months. It's been a process of feeling safe without my terror and the hypervigilance and the need for a very precise schedule, and everyone has to be so consistent and honest and transparent in my life, because otherwise it's chaos. Otherwise anything could happen. Being okay with people just being people, and no one's consistent every day, all day, and it doesn't necessarily translate to catastrophic events. That has been a process, but I am slowly being open to what my life can look like. But I will say I've never felt more comfortable at home, getting used to like, who am I without this? And it has felt safer to have that sort of transformation and that the new evolution of who I am and my real self that I haven't seen since, mid-July 92. Like, is she safe? And I'm getting used to myself, and I'm really like myself. It's kind of cool because my friends are getting to meet the person I want to be and the person I was meant to be. They just never got let out the cage.
Let out the cage. I mean, I think that's like such a powerful way to put it. When I think a lot about what you said, you talked about, on the one hand, feeling like this friend was keeping me safe, and on the other hand, also feeling like I had to keep my world so small in order to be safe, right? Mm-hmm. And those, I think, as like concepts is sort of like opposite, right? And now you talk about being able to be present, like in the moment, because you can't do two things at once, right? I can't be like looking behind me, worried about every little thing that's gonna happen, and also be here with you right now and having this conversation and really just sort of appreciating the beauty of this conversation. Mm-hmm. And so I just really love what you said there about some new freedom, right? And the freedom of discovery as well. And this person that is emerging, what I hear you saying is, I'm discovering like who she is, but I am open to this experience of her, and also like other people get to experience that. And I wonder if you could maybe tell me a little bit more about perhaps this newfound centeredness. Tell me about that.
You ever meet somebody and you're like, I want to be your friend?
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, I want to be your friend. Like, we go together. Yeah. That's how I feel about myself. And being very protective of me, I like myself. It's hard to truly like yourself and have the confidence that comes from actually liking yourself and like standing on business for you. You know what I mean? Like in a real healthy way. And I'm just very, right now, guarded about my real self, because she, as an adult, no one's seen her. Yeah. I didn't see her. And getting to know all the parts that make me that are not trauma responses.
Exactly, yeah. You've lived with this for 34 years and you have tried to get better. Mm-hmm. So tell me about any fears that you had about doing this particular treatment at Nema. What were you worried about?
I don't know if I had any worries per se. I just wanted it to work. Like, I didn't want to have my hopes up again for, insert X treatment, insert this, ideology. And I'm still in the same place at the end of the day. Like temporary relief, but it doesn't stick. So I was open to it. And then we started working. And when you were chatting, I'm just going to use this example, the girl that was, the coworker that was working with me, and her anger and her actions that night, and how much blame I had placed on her, and how fixated I was on her, and how much venom I held for her. And slowly, slowly examining that and dissecting that. And by the end, realizing that all the things that you do in the moment that you think are keeping you safe, or she wasn't trying to harm me. Nothing she did, she could have predicted would have led to rape and beating and guns, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you couldn't have told me that before. Probably not even halfway through. You know, when we're doing the work and it's like, what percentage, you know, do you believe, you know, X? And I'm like, 100.
Right. Plus.
She got extra credit. Like, and then by the end, just slowly breaking down those long-held beliefs and how freeing it is. But that was a hard one. That was a very hard one to release, because I really wanted her to own the blame. Like, if you didn't do this, then this wouldn't have happened. If you didn't do this, then this wouldn't happen. None of us have experienced this.
I think you definitely sort of came into therapy with a sort of like make it make sense mentality, right? And that was the way that you had made sense of your traumatic event. And you talk about something that I think is so interesting with the therapy that we do here at Nema. I think a lot of times when people think about trauma therapy, they think, oh my God, I gotta get like the biggest box of like tissues. I'm gonna curl up. This is gonna be like some really, really intense sessions where I just like tell the story of like what happened, and I give you like all my thoughts about it, and I am just like a mess. And through that process, there's gonna be some sort of like relief, and then I'll leave all the symptoms in the therapist's office and I'll get better, right? What we do here is a lot different than that. It feels way more like a collaboration, and you and I are digging, right? We are like archaeologists. And I love what you said there about that particular thought and who you were like assigning blame to, because it was a lot of work around, it sort of felt like surgery.
Yeah.
Like we were dissecting all of those thoughts that you had, right? The understanding that you had created in your mind about why the traumatic event happened. And what was so interesting about that is that that really helped to sort of shape your identity. Because you saw the traumatic event in this way, you said to yourself, I'm not safe in any of these spaces. I'm not safe with any of these people. And if you resemble at all someone that sort of looks like this, then I'm not safe with you either.
Any chaotic people, I'm allergic to them, because I can't predict your behavior, and you put me in danger. Physical, emotional, spiritual, definitely financial danger. You know what I mean? And you are to be avoided or casted out or maligned. And that is, I never looked at it as a trauma response. And where I had placed so much blame on this coworker for her chaotic, at the time, how I was thinking, like, response to this crazy trauma. And it's funny, there was a little clip that I guess had gone a little viral the other week, and they were talking about, oh yeah, Gab talked about how she was a mean girl back in the day. Being mean is a defense mechanism and a trauma response. Like, you can't be around, I cannot predict anything that you're about to do. It feels like everything is on the table and I feel unsafe.
Well, it keeps people away from you, right?
It keeps people away.
Yeah.
You're gonna think twice before you come over here.
Yeah, I think also part of it is you learn very early on with a diagnosis like PTSD to sort of box people into like categories, right?
Easy labels.
And it is like very like binary. It's good or bad. It's like trusted or I can't trust you at all. Someone might have done something that day, right? Which might not even be emblematic of who they are as a person, but they went in the box for you, right? And that box was like not safe. And whatever I need to do to sort of keep you away from me, I will do. And I want to go back to the therapy, and I want to go back to this idea of it sort of feeling like surgery with a lot of like dissecting of thoughts. I want to understand that process for you? Because I think, again, going back to the way many people think about talk therapy, they're just like, yeah, we're just going to come and I'm just going to talk, and the therapist is sort of going to do therapy to me, and I may leave with some relief, some like new coping skills that I could use, but like I'm really not going to change. And so I'm just sort of thinking about this process where in therapy, it sometimes feel like you're sort of putting your thoughts on trial, right? Where did that thought come from? Like, how did it originate? Also, how is that thought keeping me stuck, right? Does it really help me right now? So with all of that like dissection, how you still manage to show up every single day, ready to explore, ready to put the thought that you had in your life for 34 years and many, many thoughts like that, which in some ways brought you some sort of comfort, how you manage to continue to show up for yourself every single day.
I had to make the time because I felt like I was going crazy. And when you are on a set or, you know, in different work environments in Hollywood, everyone's day is based on your vibes. You know what I mean? Either you're going to make people comfortable or uncomfortable. And I had a knack for making people uncomfortable, like P's and Q's. I'm obsessed with time, right? I'm obsessed with everyone doing what they're supposed to be doing. Like if the check cleared, what are we talking about? Like I don't understand delays. I don't understand, like, very persnickety and intolerant of, you know, people being human. And it made me not the best person to be around on a set with. I don't want to be that person. My friend and business partner, Larry Sims, he was like, at one point was like, yeah, cut the shit. You can't say good morning. When I tell you, the morning salutations felt like someone was trying to drag me into war. Because if I could avoid communicating or having to connect with people, the safer I felt. Because then if I say good morning, and it could go anywhere, there could be follow-up questions. I'm just trying to get, you know,
I haven't prepared for that.
I haven't prepared for that.
Yeah.
And so I would avoid saying good morning. What an asshole. But like, in my mind, it just felt like safety. But how it translates to the world, because no one knows what's going on in your mind, you're just an asshole. Yeah. And like, I can't be at my most creative self. I can't be my best in this work environment. Yeah. We're in the arts. And great art doesn't come out of, you know, oppressive systems and vibes. So,
or even being restricted to like just what's on like the script, whatever. Yeah.
If it's not on the schedule, what are we talking about? So as we do the homework, especially the homework, because, you know, we're dissecting, you know, the previous night's homework, and then you give me a new assignment, and it's like, okay, I was at 100% belief in this. All right, well, this homework is really challenging me to basically ask myself, am I actually, logically speaking, any safer? Is this moving me towards peace? Okay, no, it's not. But it's like every night I had to challenge myself. And it's not meant to be sped through. Like your recovery, your personal evolution is not to be rushed. And so I started savoring it. You know, I'm also one of those people, when you prove me wrong, you got that, my bad. And I was proving these long-held beliefs to be wrong, not just a little wrong, like really wrong. Admitting to be wrong and releasing it. It's one thing to be like, okay, I'm wrong, but a lot of us, we know we're wrong, but we don't release it. We don't let go of that thought process or those beliefs. But when you actually start getting okay with the idea of releasing, and then you start to actually release, it's like, I'm so much lighter. Even as I'm going through the homework of doing the work to dismantle these beliefs that I really, truly believe kept me safe, I'm actually feeling safer without them. So, starting the process, I'm at 100% belief this helps keep me alive.
I need this.
I need this. I cannot function or participate in life without this. To, yeah, that was probably not, that was not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the freedom that comes from it leaving your body, and you really start to feel the heaviness and the weight. You're like, how did I even get from A to B, much less A to Z, with this 1,000-pound gorilla on my back?
My God, it just gave me chills, like just the way you put that, like that 1,000 pounds on my back, carrying that every single day. And how did I even get there? One of the things that you said is that, it wasn't overnight, it was incremental. And a huge portion of what that was is kind of what I did outside a session. And when people think about therapy, they don't really think a lot about what you do outside a session, right?
Yeah.
They think about sort of like the magic all happening in session. So you'd come to session, right? Your therapist would ask you questions about your thoughts, where they came from, how much they help you, what is the evidence for the thoughts, and looking for somebody to blame, which in that case, there was somebody to blame.
Yeah.
It was the perpetrator of the violence who was completely to blame. Sometimes what can even pop up is like this other blame. Well, who else was there? What did they do or what didn't they do? And how did that contribute to a particular outcome? And if I didn't like that outcome, then I'm saying you're chaotic and you're bad. And then again, going back to any situation that feels familiar, I'm then gonna say, oh, I know what this is. This is chaotic, this is bad. I need to do whatever I can to get away from this. And it can sort of feel like I am every single day waking up and fighting tooth and nail, right, to be safe. And I know you talked a little bit about that before, just this experience of sort of being like, I am not safe from the time I wake up until I go to sleep. And I'm not even sure I'm safe when I'm asleep because I never feel safe. I don't feel safe in my body or outside of my body. Maybe you started to realize that, this is a thought that I don't necessarily have to believe. Talk to me about what that moment was like for you.
Probably like maybe 2 or 3 sessions in where the percentages finally started going down.
You placing blame squarely on your coworker for what she did or didn't do during the moments of the trauma. Like one of the questions that comes up is, well, what evidence do you have?
What evidence do you have?
Right.
And yeah, as I'm doing these practice sessions, and I'm like, what evidence do I have? And it turns out this was not a great episode of Law and Order because I did not have a lot of evidence. Case dismissed. But as the percentages went from 100% believe I have all the evidence. And each practice session, I was like, okay, maybe it's like 85%. And then maybe, third, fourth session, and the percentages are they're dropping fast. Because I cannot produce the needed empirical evidence to support this thought as fact. And I was like, for me to be wrong is to allow anything to happen to me. I have to be right in all things. Every day it's Trivial Pursuit and I better have the answer. Otherwise. And so to realize I've been wrong about these beliefs that I truly believe kept me safe. Practice session after practice session. And then somewhere around when I got to about 40%, I was like, I'm wrong and I'm so happy to be wrong. I'm relieved to be wrong. Because it let me know that I'm not gonna unlearn this. I know what the truth is, the real truth. I know the logic of the real truth. I can't make, 1 + 1 = 4, which is what I'd been doing. The math is not mathing. And when you're just presented with the evidence of, you've been selling yourself wolf tickets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're coming to this conclusion, through the work, where you're like, dang.
And you talk a lot about the relief, right? that you discovered? You said, I'm a person, I love to be right.
I love
to be right,
Nothing
child.
feels
I love
as
to be
good
right.
as being right.
But you talked about how good it actually felt to be wrong.
To be
right?
wrong.
To be wrong.
And actually have access to the truth.
Yes.
Like to have access to be rooted in reality.
Yeah.
And to find it myself.
Yeah. And how did that feel for you in your body?
Oh, liberating. I realized I had been holding my breath. I end up having exhales like that, you know, and you're like, oh, I've been holding my breath this whole time. I was just breathing. I don't have to be conscious of like, hold your breath until you get to right, and then like you deserve to breathe. Versus you kind of need to breathe. It's not a like a prize, which sounds insane, but it's like the need for 100% control of everything. And then you make it make sense, whether it makes any sense or not. And then so it's like, look at me breathing, just breathing, not thinking about it, not like, and feeling lightheaded. You know, just all those little things that just become like a part of my reality are just disappearing. And I'm noticing it because the practice sessions are asking me to notice. And I'm like, look at me breathing. Oh my goodness. Or slowly, I'm not gonna say it's a fast process, but slowly being able to drift off to sleep without, like I used to do weird things. It just felt safe. Or if something happened right now, as I'm laying in bed and my husband's asleep, how am I gonna escape right now? What is my route? How am I gonna, like, that's what I'm going to bed with every night. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Just drifting off into, you know, Never Never Land in peace, not in my anxiety being a part of my sleep that I have to factor in. Like I play words with friends. I had this thing where I cannot go to sleep if I have games
that are open.
Something bad is gonna happen. I have 23 games going at all times. I can't sleep if somebody, and I play strangers. I don't even play friends anymore. If somebody decides to put out a word at 2 a.m., that's gonna keep me safe. But those are the things that you start to develop, irrational, illogical things. And you're like, where's the proof that playing these games is going to keep you safe? And I can start to do that on my own and be like, okay, see, it turns out, as I examine all these other things that I really felt kept me safe, that perhaps some of the more wackier ones, absolutely, I could let them go easier.
What I'm hearing is, I just have this freedom now to be present and to exist and to be human, which means that I am flawed, which means that I'll get some things done, right? Just based on like priority, and other things, which are more based on fun and like no priority, and no one dies if they don't get done. Those will get done tomorrow, no big deal. So sometimes it can feel like, oh my God, this newfound discovery is only gonna be temporary. Because how could it not be? I have had these symptoms for 34 years, right? I have known myself as this person more than I've not known myself as this person. So maybe tell me about some fears or worries that you had about this therapy. Like, would it stick? Would I be okay if I didn't have ongoing sessions with my therapist? Like, how was I gonna survive? Tell me about what that process has been like and what you've discovered.
Yeah, I mean, because right after all of our sessions,
and
I felt real good, very hopeful, but also like nothing else is stuck. I had to go overseas to shoot a movie in Rome with a co-star that was 20 years with my love interest being 20 whole years.
Saw the clip,
younger.
He was cute, yeah.
So cute, right? But I'm in a strange apartment building, There's no security. I have keys to like let me in, and my back is to the public as I try to get in and out of my building. Like, is it gonna stick through this strange new world? And I remember pulling up to my apartment building and like realizing it's not like a secured building, and just being like, you're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Right? And the first time pulling out my keys, I will admit to some anxiety.
Of course.
Because we're, women living alone in a foreign country.
Yeah.
And I looked and I put my key in and I went inside. I was still cautious of my surroundings, but I wasn't vigilant.
Right.
And my whole body wasn't frozen. And I wasn't thinking of, okay, if this happens, what am I gonna, like, I just was like, am I safe to put the key in the door? Yes. I'm going in. And that's it.
That. When I think about this concept of peace that comes with PTSD recovery, I think going back to something that you said earlier, it doesn't mean that shit doesn't come up, right?
No, it's not the absence of chaos.
Right. It's what I do, right? So like with these new set of skills that you have, they arm you with like self-efficacy, and particularly the ability to sort of think through things. Because it's not to suggest that you won't have these periods where you go, oh God, or you get anxious. But I think the difference that you had talked about earlier is how much time is taken up now versus how much time it took up before.
Oh my God,
right?
it was
Tell me about that.
It's a 24/7 job.
24/7.
To be vigilant.
Yes.
About everything.
Yes.
And to be all-knowing at all times.
Yes, and it's not even possible.
It's not possible.
And it's not possible.
It's not possible. So to complete, our sessions and go right into a high-pressure situation, and I can't enjoy it. I'm trying to speed through it as fast as I can. I'm not my best self. I'm not in touch with the human part of me. Like, humanity is something to be controlled. And to go to work, and of course, it's a Hollywood production. Things go wrong all the time. That's just the nature of the business. And I was like, it's okay. I didn't attach a meaning or a feeling to something going wrong that I had to be vigilant about. I was just like, it's okay. It's all right. Everyone's like, this isn't normal. I was like, it's fine. We're going to get through it. It's going to be great. And I was like, wait, I actually meant that? Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, I mean that. And my body is responding as if that is a true statement. Perhaps it is a true statement. Okay, day one in the books. We're there for close to 3 months. And I enjoyed the whole experience, even when chaos would pop up. I was okay. And I was like, if I feel okay in this, and I'm in isolation because my family's not there the whole time, it feels pretty good. Yeah. Then me and my husband decide, okay, we're gonna go to Japan with no real itinerary. We're just winging it. I would have never without a plan and a strict schedule and knowing where everyone's going to be at all times. We don't talk enough also about how your hypervigilance becomes everyone's hypervigilance, because obviously the people that love you want you to feel safe. But now they're in the cage with you, like even showing up differently as a mom, right? I even pulling in for, to show up at her school, I would have so much anxiety about parking. Most people are like, oh, I hope there's a spot. I'm like, okay, well, if I pick the furthest point of the parking lot, I can safely park. And if I have to, if I don't get into the spot perfectly the first time, it's okay if I have to. I'm thinking about how many times I gotta. Sometimes I don't park very well, and I might have to do an 18-point turn, but whatever. I would have to plot where I'm parking so I can start to kind of relax enough to volunteer. But anything can happen in volunteering. It's science lab. I used to cut science. They're gonna find out I don't know anything about science, and these first graders are going to expose me, and this is where my brain goes. There's no joy in it. I'm not present. I'm thinking of what these people are going to be thinking of me. So the first time I show up at science lab or at her school to volunteer, I'm a different mom because I'm not stressing about parking. I'm not stressing about these other moms are judging me constantly and I'm failing. You can't be present when this is on the docket.
Yeah. Oh,
and
absolutely.
it filled the whole docket.
Man,
my
yeah.
daughter was not even in there.
Yeah.
I'm showing up for her, but the hypervigilance, the terror, the PTSD it's really
PTSD brain is taking over everything. Everything.
So
my
even
goodness.
Like showing up differently with her, obviously publicly at school and even privately. I'm getting to know her as me, and she's getting to know a mom that isn't. We're in the back. It's our own backyard. We have security, armed security on our house. But I'm like, what if they get past him? I can't watch you do cartwheels. If I'm thinking about if a fictitious criminal mastermind somehow thwarts security and comes through the back gate, I can't parent. I can't be present like that. And now I'm just watching her do cartwheels. I can be present enough to actually hear what she's saying.
Right. I'm hearing a lot of different things, right, Gab? I'm hearing lightness. I'm hearing spontaneity. All the things that having a PTSD brain robs you of, right? I'm hearing being in the moment. I'm hearing being present. And I'm also thinking about that person that I met in October, and I'm just like, wow, that's such a difficult way to live. Like all of that suffering, that's so hard every single day. Of course, it's affecting you internally, it's impacting your sleep. And it just brings me great joy to hear that peace for you seems to be more about how you're approaching situations. The situations are what they are. They are what they are. You go to school, there's gonna be a level of chaos, maybe around parking sometimes, right? But I'm not gonna add to that chaos with my internal script of what's right and what's wrong, whether I'm in trouble or not, who's watching, who's not watching, or whatever. It's just like this newfound freedom and being able to kind of think through things and to be able to show up and be present. The other thing that I heard that was just so very exciting was around how you shift your relationships by being different. Mm-hmm. I think you're totally spot on when you talk about I have this hypervigilance, which starts with me, but then it becomes a family problem, right? So PTSD is on your shoulders, but it's also on Kavia's shoulder. It's also on Dwayne's shoulders too. So talk to me about them noticing the differences in you in the way that you're showing up and how they have responded to these differences.
The conversations are different. And
I love that sigh you let out. I love that sigh. It was just like,
The level of communication with my real self allows for a deeper and more meaningful and loving connection with my husband. We've been married 11 years, that there was always this thing that stopped us. And when you take out, for me, the hypervigilance, the constant analyzing and computing and and you actually connect person to person, it allowed him to be like, I got a 1,000-pound gorilla on my back that I've never felt comfortable even thinking about letting go of. Our conversations are completely different, completely different. How we are now approaching parenting our child. The 7-year-old that's in the house with us, and how we communicate with our kids that are out of the house. It's deepened the relationship, and it's created a safety. It's hard to feel safe when everything is evil. They're all out to get us. And you adopt that because you love this person, and you're like, well, if that's how you feel, I got to feel the same way. Well, what if we all lay it down? Can we connect? And we're connecting in ways that we've never had. And it's created a peace in our home, in our marriage, that everyone is appreciative of. That I, clearly was not as aware. of the heaviness that existed in our house.
Yeah, because you know what you get when you get that 1,000-pound gorilla off your back? You get real intimacy. And so it's not to suggest that the conversations that you and Dwayne have are not difficult anymore, right? But I think that generally speaking, your thoughts and your feelings, you know, generally sharing them without that level of like hostility because you think he's trying to snake you, or like what's really going on, or do you have my best interests at heart, or you're wrong because I'm right, because only one of us has to be right, only one of us gets to be right, and if I'm right, that means you're clearly wrong. And what were you thinking, right? When you sort of leave all of that in your rear view, even with having those harder conversations, right, you can still develop intimacy. Something you said just sort of had me thinking about, it's not all peachy, it's not all rosy. And it does have me thinking, what do you say when those old ways of thinking about anything sort of starts to kind of creep back in and a thought feels more pronounced? How do you handle that thought now?
I'm trying to really think, because I honestly feel like I don't have them. You know what I mean? And it was like the first time something chaotic happened. Yeah. And I was like, well, let's try to come up with some solutions. And it wasn't, I just didn't, I'm also, you know, probably because of this, very logical. And now, once I know that my normal response pattern for the last 34 years is illogical, not helpful, not rooted in reality. What do you call those things when the cars make the noise? It kind of sounds like gunshots.
Oh, backfiring.
Backfiring.
Mm-hmm.
I hear the, you know, and it's like, okay. I would have never been able to recover the rest of the day. My legs would have been shaking. I wouldn't have been able to function. It was just like I was.
Yeah, it's interesting.
As you should.
Yeah.
Because are they shooting?
Yeah. Are they shooting?
Yeah.
But it's interesting how actually it's sort of like, I'm thinking about those practice assignments again, right? It's like you move off of the worksheets to what was that? What's going on, right? You make a quick determination about what's going on, and you realize, oh, okay, that was a car backfiring. Those weren't actually gunshots. Let me continue on with my day. So this freedom and actually being able to think through things logically has afforded you the ability to return back to whatever it is that you were doing. And hopefully that was, you know, great time with your husband, or you're out to dinner with a friend, or you're, like you said, just sort of like working. But, you know, again, being able to not lose this relationship to whatever reality is.
It's like, because it's definitely not free from things happening, you know, like we were on our way, Pat Riley got a statue in front of the Lakers. I keep calling it Staples, I don't know what the hell it's called anymore, but like in front of Crypto. And Dee was giving, you know, a speech, and on the way there, you get the call you don't ever want to get. Your dad's been rushed in the hospital.
You got that call about your dad.
Yeah. If you want to see him alive, you
need to come now.
Come right now.
Oh, goodness.
And, you know, everything is just, and it felt like in the most intense, crippling pain in my chest, but it didn't feel like terror. Whereas it would have felt like terror. Like there was no differentiating the pain of potential loss or just fear for, are they experiencing pain? Like, am I gonna get to see my dad alive again? It would have just mixed in with terror, and then like hypervigilance, and then immediately into, okay, we're gonna have to do this, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, this is hard.
This sucks.
This sucks.
And
this is reality, right?
And probably were like, gosh, she's crying so hard for Pat Riley. But it's like, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get to the airport and be present for my dad and not let it becomes something other than what it is. Just a hard, inevitable part of life. It didn't get away from me. It didn't get away from me at all. And I didn't get there and succumb to the doom.
I love that because there's such a difference between, because that was a really painful moment. You know, this whole sickness with your dad has been painful, lots of painful moments. But there's a difference between painful moments and what you do to those painful moments to create suffering, right? So what I heard was the absence of suffering. That was a painful moment. But I don't need to add on to it with suffering, which just goes on indefinitely.
No end.
Yeah, no end. You know, one of the things that I love about our work together was that we got to work on so many different things, right? It wasn't just about what brought you into therapy in the first place, which was this horrible, horrible traumatic event. We did a whole walk around your life, you know, you and Dwayne, you and Kavia. And so Friends was a big theme for us.
A big theme.
Yeah. And when I think now about just times when things sort of come up, maybe expected, unexpected, and you think you need a bit of a tune-up, right? Are there any resources that you take advantage of now?
I think knowing that there is aftercare has been helpful. Knowing that I'm not alone and that it doesn't end when the sessions end and that it can go on, you know, whenever you need it. It's a level of comfort and security that I used to get in hypervigilance and terror that now I can feel with the evolution of recovery.
I happen to think that one of the kindest things that I could do for anyone as a therapist is to teach you skills to solve your own problems. And so, you know, a session with me, a session with any of our therapists at Nema is going to be, you know, us rolling up our sleeves and getting to work again, you know? And so we would have sessions where we would get to work, right? Because the idea is, what is going on, right? Are there things about my thoughts that I can change that are keeping me stuck? Or is the work more so about like acceptance? Because these are things that I just need to really work on. But the idea is that therapy is really good work, right? And it's not a space to be held and coddled. It really is more of a space to work so that I can get back out there with this self-efficacy and approach life and all that life is coming, right? And bringing, because it's bringing whether I want to or not, you know, and not contribute to my suffering.
Well, I think so many people, and me included, looked at other forms of therapy as validation of your experience. Having someone you pay to be on your side. Having someone that you pay to see your perspective and affirm it. And you're gonna get it. Because like you say the worst thing that's ever happened to you, no one's gonna be like, well, that didn't happen. You know, like a good therapist, you know, so there you get that, the feeling of like you're not alone, but also somebody's actively on your side, whether you're making progress or not. And a lot of times what feels like progress is just somebody being in agreement with you, you know? And some people need that, like, because people will gaslight you to death. Like it didn't happen or it wasn't that bad. But what's the next thing? Like we're starting from a place of this happened. Now let's get into what happened after.
Yes.
And let's get into how this has impacted your entire life.
Exactly.
Where it did not for me go that way with, you know, other forms of therapy.
Yeah, I love
that. But I felt affirmed.
Yeah, it is. It's so much of it is about approaching the way you think about things with curiosity, right? Because oftentimes we don't see a separation between us and who we are and our identity and our thoughts. They are one in the same. So I often will say a thought is not a fact. And the beautiful thing about a thought is that 9 times out of 10, it could be challenged. Yeah. And if you think something else, you'll end up feeling something else and you'll end up doing something else, right? So it's a very logical model.
So logical.
Yeah.
So logical.
I think And you actually talked about this on a podcast I watched recently where you said, you know, when people think about trauma and they think about PTSD, they think about particular populations like veterans. And so I wonder how you might respond to the average American that has experienced a traumatic event but then goes, well, it wasn't war, right? It wasn't that bad. Or, you know what? It's been 34 years. I've been living with this. I got more years behind me than in front of me. Like, what is even like the point? What would you say to that person?
Well, first, no two traumas are the same.
Yes.
And you can experience a similar trauma as someone else who has a completely different response. But for you, it was incredibly traumatic and has impacted the rest of your life. Has you thinking thoughts as facts that have shaped who you've become and who you are. If you feel like your trauma has shifted your humanity and how you show up in the world, and it doesn't have to match anybody else's. Because a lot of times we feel it and we're like, I think I need help. And then someone else will be like, girl, we all have something. You know, we all have a cross to bear. Your pain is not unique. And it's like, one way to think about it, not the healthy way, you can get help. And freedom surrounding trauma can be yours. And it's not going to look like my freedom because our traumas don't match.
Yeah, my goodness.
But can it be a freedom that is transformative for you?
I think I'm actually going to just take that. Freedom in the aftermath of trauma is possible. Wow.
It is.
It
is.
Yeah. This is time that I want to just hold on to and put in my pocket. I want to say thank you very much. I am Lashauna Cutts, Senior Clinical Director here at Nema, and I have had the pleasure of talking with the Gabrielle Union about her story of trauma recovery. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything. Truly.
You're welcome.